So, hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Meera.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. For those that don't know me, my name is Rajni Ashaya, and I'm here to interview another fellow Ashaya member of the family, Meera Ashaya. And why are we having this interview, Meera?
So the reason we're doing this interview today is just to let everyone know about the latest book that I've written, Surrender is Good for the Soul.
Awesome. Awesome. So do you want to kind of introduce yourself as well and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Meera and I'm an Ashaya monk. Obviously, that wasn't what I intended originally in my life. I saw my life playing out quite differently, in fact. I I was a graphic designer when I first came out of college, and I worked I worked in the business marketing business for quite a while, and I loved it. I loved the creative side of it. It's always been inspiring for me to just be able to create things, and really that all changed when my health spiraled down. I've had so many different health issues from ME, chronic fatigue. A lot of people know ME as, and um, yeah, from not being able to walk, from a pelvic condition with the birth of my second child, and I've always had so many health challenges. So then my life kind of took a turn for the worst in a way. Like it was a battle. Everything was a battle. But it's strangely now I'm really, really grateful for all the challenges that I've had, because it's like it pushed me. They were like wake up calls. It's just like there's more to life than this. And so in looking for solutions to even have like a half decent life, you know I came across the Bright Path of Shires and then the practice of ascension. And I love this practice so much that I ended up training and becoming an Ashaya monk and teacher of the practice. And for me, life can actually be really easy, and I didn't know this. There's so much I've learned from the Ashayas that has allowed me to see life very, very differently. And so through the journey that I have gone through myself, and it's mostly an inner journey, getting to know myself in a way beyond who I thought I was, beyond all the mind chatter and the emotional overwhelm. I used to live in a state of anxiety, often dipping down into depression. So it's it's been lovely to learn that there is in fact more to life than this, and not just be told that there's more to life than the day-to-day humdrum, but also how to make the choice to create a more enjoyable, joyful, happy life, that feels really light and easy and free. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Mm. So it sounds like you had a lot of life experience. And I understand you wrote your first book was called Peace or Pain, correct?
Yeah. So the first book was Peace or Pain, and that came from all the struggles I had with a long-term chronic health condition that landed me in huge amounts of pain, but also I couldn't walk for some of the time, and when I could, it was low mobility, not being able to lift things. So with a very young child, a baby initially, actually, I had it in pregnancy of my second child. So that made me reassess life. And in just managing my condition, it kind of opened up new opportunities for me. So when I became an Ashaya, and then the pain levels, gradually reduced, and also then I learned to change my relationship with pain, even with like when I had broken ribs. Like it was an instant choice rather than a gradual progression. And so it led to me wanting to write this book and let other people know what is actually possible. Sometimes we need certain remedies and solutions. Like I wear a support belt for my condition. So you know, it's not about not caring for the body, but it's about caring for the mind as well, caring for our emotional state, so that we can actually have a different relationship with whatever is presented, whether it's with our body, with our job, with our, you know, our lives, with the people in it, you know. So it's, that was my initial journey.
So it was almost like, you know, you had all these experiences, and then it's opened up the floodgates of your creativity as well, because it sounds like it's been a really cool outlet for you to not only have the experience, but to get down on paper and to share that with others, and hopefully help others in that way as well, based on your experiences. To the point where you wrote another book. So your newest book is called Surrender is Good for the Soul, which is such a beautiful title, by the way. I love it. So why surrender? Why did you write this book?
Well, actually, this book was really just a progression from the first book, to be honest, because the thing that has the greatest impact on our relationship of pain is resistance. When we're resisting the experience that we're having, that creates suffering. And so really, you know, I talked about resistance in my first book, but it's like I really just scratched the surface of the topic. And in my own experience, I've got a very different understanding of surrender now. When I first remember knowing about the word as a child, it was almost like giving in, and usually to another person. So for me, surrender was something I was never going to do. I was never going to surrender. I was never going to give up. I was never going to let anyone else rule me or anything rule me. You know, I was battling through life, trying to carve my way through it and do things the way I wanted to do. Like, it was a very forceful experience. And so I now have a very different understanding of surrender. And surrender is actually, the surrendered state's a natural state. You know, it's not something we do as such. It's something we allow to happen. And the surrendered state is very natural. You know, to be allowing, to go with the flow of life, to work with what's arising in your life, to work with the people in your life. It's a very easy thing to do. It just requires a willingness to slow down and listen and pay attention, so your understanding and experience of life can be more gentle and more clear. And then surrender just becomes a beautiful dance that actually, for me, is something I'm so willing to do. And in a way, it's actually really exciting, because as I've explored surrender, my experience has just opened up to one of greater joy, of greater freedom. And so, yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's not a battle anymore. It's an easy exploration, which just, you know, you reap the benefits from again and again.
I make it sound so easy. I know from my own experience, surrender for me in the past, you know, because also having learned ascension meditation, you know, we do have a different perspective on it now, but back in the old life, so to speak, surrender for me, it would feel like I would have to give up something. And to give up something, it would be like, well, where's, you know, why do I have to let go of that? You know, there was a fear. The underlying emotion was fear. Could you elaborate on that? Why is that so?
Yeah, that's very much actually how I used to see surrender as well, actually, Rajni. You know, it's just very much that I'm going to lose out in some way, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Whereas actually my understanding of it now is, no, it's the absolute opposite. By surrendering, you gain everything. All you're really letting go of is an idea, you know, an idea of who we are, who I am, and who we believe we are tends to be the way we then see the world. So it's like we look through the filters of the mind, and the filters in our mind are simple, you know, beliefs and judgments based on often bad experiences. Actually, you know, it's a lot of it is negative, and that's why life can be very strained. And so we're really just surrendering into a greater experience. We're letting go of the little narrow mind created or as I call it in the book, thought created reality, you know, where it's like having a virtual reality headset on, and then you're experiencing your entire life through this almost random selection of thoughts that we've downloaded into our unconscious mind. And life is very distorted, you know, what we see and what we hear, what we experience, everything is experienced through this virtual, you know, reality that we've created in our minds. And it's not real, it's not true, and it's not bad or wrong, but it's like a reduced version that's actually available. So in a way, for me, it's just like surrendering has taken me from a almost like a 2D flat experience of life, you know, into a, you know, full Technicolor 3D, much more depth to everything, but a gentleness as well, you know, almost like we've gone from a very focused down experience and just opened up our awareness to take in everything, but everything equally. So there's no pressure, there's no friction in the experience. It's just very gentle and light and easy. So for me, surrender means to let go of what we think is real and you know, come into the fullness of who we are. And that actually, once we start to recognize that it's easy and how much we gain from the experience, it's a full experience yet empty at the same time. So it's frictionless, if you like. So and it's not something that requires any effort to do. It's the opposite of effort. It's a letting go into our natural state, so we can just rest and be and breathe and and then, you know, work with everything that arises rather than trying to battle and yeah, make our will happen, you know.
Yes, yes, I do. Which comes to the second part of your title, so surrender is good for the soul. And is that what you meant when you were talking about that expansive state, the natural state, the limitless state? Is that the soul?
Yeah, that's how I mean, for me, the soul is almost an indescribable state. Like, I think our understanding of soul is often the mind has to categorize everything, so it has a very limited understanding. So it's almost like the word soul feels like it's an individual thing. It's just like there's me and I have a soul, and then there's you know, then there's all these other souls in life, and then in a way all of those souls make one big, you know, the one, the pure consciousness aware, where it's a universal consciousness. But my understanding of the soul is that there isn't any separation. So, you know, there's no individual souls, there's just this pure experience which we all can tap into and have, and we might have a different experience of it through our own nervous system, our own flavor, but at the same time it won't be it's not a separate experience that anyone else is having. So for me, that's when the battle of wills falls away for humanity, because it's like we're all now on the same wavelength, because we're accessing the same space of pure awareness. So for me, certainly in this book, that's what I'm meaning by soul, and it's just discovering who we are as that presence.
And that's wonderful, because I think for me, I think the word soul is overused, you know, in so many different ways and concepts, and very much separation as well. You know, there's your soul sister, there's your soul partner. There seems to be only one of each category. It's not one, you know, the togetherness, the unity. So do you talk about that in your book? Is there at some length what soul is all about for you? Because I think that was a wonderful explanation what you just gave.
No, I actually don't. It's
next book.
It's in, yeah, maybe. It's really it's sort of throughout the book, but there's not just this whole understanding of the soul. I mean, there is, but I don't necessarily spell it out in that way. So for me, probably the word I use more is presence. And you know, it's the same thing. Presence for me is soul. It's who and what we are, and we use that term to be present. And I was actually teaching some people meditation the other day, and somebody asked, the question of, like, what's conscious? And it's funny because that's actually quite a common question. Like, we feel like we are conscious, and often we understand that as, you're unconscious when you're asleep, and when we're awake we're conscious, and yet we're not consciously aware of everything. We're tuned into our thinking mind, so in a way we're actually asleep to the real world, the real potential that we can have. And so for me, the soul is awake, and we're surrendering our limited mind created version of ourselves to our soul, to the presence that we are. And that's when we wake up. That's when we can have a conscious experience, and then we act in a way we want to act in accordance with our values, rather than, I used to find that I would be in an argument with a family member, and I'd say things that, at a later point, I'm like, oh, almost ashamed that I spoke that way. I used to be ashamed that I raised my voice, that I'd shout and scream, and like I had no control. I wasn't conscious. I was just reacting in a very unconscious way. And so understanding that has taken the pressure off me. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't aware enough to control my behavior, to control the words I used. There was no space between me and the thoughts coming in. And so it was just like they would just drive action. They would drive the words that came from me, and it was like, it was, completely out of control experience. And it's not actually like I've gained control. It's simply that there's a mastering of it, that you get to choose, and it's like the soul will naturally speak through you, and it's the most gentle, loving presence you could ever imagine. And we just surrender to that and let that run the show. And it, it sorts out everything. It sorts out everything. Every desire I could ever want is almost, lined up for me without me even having to ask for it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, again, what you just said. But I'm thinking, some people may be watching this and going, yeah, Meera, you make it sound easy, and yeah, you're there, you've surrendered, you know how to surrender. But some people may think surrendering every moment of the day, that's like 24 hours of the day, surrendering, that sounds like really hard work.
You can go to sleep for some of those 24 hours. But yeah.
Right, -7.
But yeah, I know what you mean. For me, it used to feel like that it was something I had to do, and certainly as an Ashaya monk, there was this challenge to be present, to live your life from there. And it always used to feel like I would be quite self-violent with myself if I forgot, if I fell asleep, if I displayed unconscious behavior. And it clearly came from the ego. It was almost like I'd done something wrong. And what I've learned now, which has really allowed me to relax and taken the pressure off, is just like, you can't do anything wrong. You don't choose to come from the ego. You don't choose to fall asleep. You don't choose to be reactive. It's a learnt habit, and we've learnt it to protect ourselves. We've learnt it to try and shape ourselves into a person that will be liked, that will be loved. So it's no fault of our own. And so as I started to recognize that it was just this strong habit to jump into the mind and react from there, I stopped making it something I had to do, and then I just get excited about exploring the experience that I'm having right now. So we have the ascension techniques, you and I, that are mechanical, and they automatically bring us to this state of presence, you know. So we're very, very lucky. But even I work with people who don't have those sometimes as well. And like, we can always just stop in this moment and just notice the room we're in. Notice what we can see. Notice what we can hear. And sound's a very good one, actually, to just naturally draw your awareness wide. I was playing with some people yesterday, actually, with that. And you could just see their faces, you know, just relax and come calm again. And they were quite surprised at the difference, just listening for the sounds that you can hear, and how that just dials down the pressure and tension, and you just feel relaxed. So that there's just this very easy way that we can just be present now. And it's easy because it's natural. So what we often do is we try to be present. You know, we try to find peace. We try to calm down, and it's counterproductive. It's like we're chasing this experience, and it's chasing us, and it's just stopping for a moment so you can rest back in that experience. And then it's just simply a case of connecting the dots. And for me, a consistent practice using the ascension techniques naturally opens that experience up for us. And then we've just got to show up and play and do it in a light-hearted way, you know. Like, we haven't got to strive and struggle and strain for this experience. We've just got to stop and pay attention, and it's here right now.
I think so many of us, we make it complicated, but only because that's, you know, we live in a world that's very complicated. It's, you know, the outer circumstances are very can be very stressful for most people. And it's just being reminded that we do have that choice. You know, we do have the choice that we can have peace or we can suffer, you know, that it's a choice. And then it's the discipline. What I think you hit the nail on the head. Consistency is so key, isn't it? You know, you're not going to see results unless you keep doing it. You have to keep showing up. And I think that's the only work you have to do to be a fully conscious being, is just to show up and go, no, I'm going to do this because I really want it. And I'm going to do it and do it and do it until all these subtle changes start happening within you and then around you as well. You touch a lot on, in your book, I think it was chapter 25, could be wrong, called Ishani. And it was a really lovely chapter about the masculine and feminine energies, balancing the two. And this is like a huge subject, you know, because I've recently done a goddess workshop, and it was so interesting to know how both work together. You know, I used to think, no, you know, we all have our separate jobs to do, so to speak, but we need each other for those jobs to happen, for that energy to become very harmonious. So I'd love to know a bit more about why you wrote that chapter.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could tell you why I wrote that chapter. For me, a lot of this book just came through. There's actually, the next book I'm going to write was my plan. That's what I was going to write next. But the title, the chapters, it all just came through me. But as I was writing it, it's everything that I see in the world at the moment. You know, Ishani, you know, means the love of God, and it's the feminine aspect of God. And so often in the world, there's so much forcefulness. You know, there's so many of the masculine qualities still at play, whether we're male or female. You know, it's not about whether it's men or women. It's about the energy, the masculine energy versus the feminine energy, and the masculine energy, and both are important. You know, the masculine energy is very logical and rational. You know, it can, you know, drive action. You know, it's linear, and you know, it's like, for me, the example I used in the book is that it's like a boat, and it's the engine of the boat. It's that which powers and drives, you know, action forward, and the feminine is like the rudder. So it changes direction. So it's almost like often I think of the heart being the best compass, love being the best compass, and it's those feminine, nurturing, creative, intuitive qualities that we all have within us, using those to decide the direction, our course of action. Because if we're just coming too much from the masculine energy, it's like we're driving forward but not, we might have a scattered approach, or going left, right, and we're not, or we're heading in completely the wrong direction, because we're coming from the linear mind that sees something, goes, right, we need to do this, 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 and this to get this.
Yeah, it's very goal orientated, isn't it?
And then we miss the spatial qualities of the feminine, that allow us to actually see a bigger picture, to tap into our creativity and our intuition, so we can actually allow that, to point us in the right direction, and then the masculine energy can drive us forward, so that we can, achieve whatever success or whatever, project we want to do. So it'll bring it to conclusion. So we need both. Neither energy is better than the other, and I think for me, being present allows us to harness both in the exact measures that we need for different situations. Because some situations we might need a little bit more masculine energy to keep us going forward, and then other times we need to actually rest back a little bit and allow the feminine energy to come up a little bit more. So it's not like it's you need 60% of feminine and 40% of masculine, or 50-50, or there's no set amount. For me, it's this organic, ever expanding, opening experience that if we are present, we'll harness whichever energy, the masculine or the feminine, that we need the most in the moment. And the balance of both of them working together will allow life to be much more fluid and smooth and easy. And for me too, that makes it easier to work with other people. We tend to then see, if in any given situation, if we're working with other people, who is the most appropriate person, for whichever skill. So we harness all the skills that the diverse range we have on this planet, rather than just one or two people, leading the way.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's definitely, I've been in situations since before I started meditating. I'm very much lived a aggressive masculine energy lifestyle. I was surrounded by a lot of that kind of energy, and then as I came into my own, so to speak, I realized that it was very it just wasn't balanced, and just slowly after becoming a mother, it was like the universe gave me all the tools to become more woman, more feminine. And as uncomfortable as it is sometimes, it's needed. And I can see now how I can use both in different situations with different types of people. And I think, it's just something that we're not taught when we're younger. We're either wearing pink or we're wearing blue, and it's very distorted. So I think it's a fascinating subject. I think you should write a book about that as well. I'll just keep saying, write a book about that and that and that. What's your favorite chapter in your book? Do you have a favorite?
That might well be my favorite chapter, actually, the Ashani chapter. And we have an Ashaya teacher called Ashani. And so once I'd written this, I was actually got a little bit nervous, and I'm like, I need Ashani to read this. Like, have I captured the quality of her name, her essence? And so I sent it to her, and yeah, I was really blown away by her response to it, actually. She absolutely loved it, and there was a few key phrases that she said, which I can't recall right now, actually, that she loved the most. And so yeah, I think that probably is my favorite chapter. I also like the one on anger as well, though, because anger, I think it's called Anger in Its Many Disguises. Sometimes we just view anger as the explosive rage that we see in people. But it can express in many different ways. For example, boredom or irritation or agitation. We don't see that is actually an anger within us. And each chapter has a quote at the beginning of it, so in between the chapters, that's kind of pertinent and relevant to the chapter. So the anger chapter has a really wonderful quote from a Netflix series called, I can't remember what it's called now, something, Anna, I don't know if I can find it quickly to read it out to you. Oh, almost straight there, that's amazing. Yeah, Inventing Anna, it's a Netflix series, and it's when you're angry, you're just a character in someone else's story. When you let your anger go, you reclaim your own story, become your own protagonist again. And that really rang true for me. You know, anger has ruled my life for, you know, a good part of my life. I think I've only started letting it go in, well, I learned Ascension in 2010, but it, you know, if anything, it definitely calmed me down, but then I would flip back into this anger, and you know, more of the time than I would like to admit to, if you like. And so I have a completely different relationship with anger now, and it's like I had a situation where I saw that I had a choice, and I think by using Ascension, it gives you clarity, and it releases an awful lot of the stored, you know, stresses that we have. So I had this time when somebody was just like reeling off all the things wrong with me. And I could just see my blood was starting to boil, and, you know, I was just, you know, could feel myself getting more and more angry. And then I actually just started using an Ascension technique. Like I had enough clarity in the moment, enough awareness, conscious, alert awareness to think to use the technique for a start in a, you know, quite an uncomfortable situation, and that just gave me the space. And then it's bizarre, actually. It turned almost like comic like, that the person who was saying all these things about me, it just became absolutely absurd. And I recognized in that moment that the only reason I was angry was because I believed what they were saying was true. And when I recognized in that moment that it absolutely wasn't true, that there was, I think it was just like I disconnected from it. It was just like the space allowed me to just go, that's not even real or true or valid, or, you know. So it just actually became quite comical. And it's not like I found it funny in the moment, but it was so absurd that there was a let go. Like for me, the surrendering just happens through these situations and giving them a little bit of space. And so, yeah, the blood that was starting to boil just, you know, came down. I still felt a little bit uncomfortable, like there was definitely an energetic release that needed to happen. But it was enough space that could happen. And I never shouted, I never got cross. And I think I even just very calmly said, that's not even true. None of that is true. And the other person was floored, because that would have triggered me. But it then completely changed the dynamic without any, you know, battling. No battle of wills needed.
That's so powerful. And was that experience alone, did that help you to write the chapter on truth in your book? Because it sounds like quite a profound realization that you had there. I've done my homework, love.
Yeah, you definitely have. Yeah, the chapter on truth was called Absolute Truth. And I think because for me, we all have our version of truth, and we're all kind of like trying to impress our version of the truth on other people. You know, it's like the way we see the world is the way it is, and when other people come at us with something else, we're just like, no. You know, we can't see beyond our version of the truth. And so, yeah, that chapter is all about recognizing that our version of the truth isn't necessarily the whole picture. So the way I approach it now, and again, this could be a tip for other people, is to always approach every interaction, every situation that I experience in life as if it's incomplete. Because if you can treat everything like it's incomplete, then you don't kind of like hold on to your worldview, your opinion right now. It just gives a little bit of an openness so that you can just see, is there something I'm missing? And sometimes in communication with somebody else, that might be, you know, me asking them a question to just confirm what their original intention was, you know, because communication can get so distorted when we're coming from the ego. And so, you know, for me, just asking a question to clarify something, then you get clear on what the other person is saying. And it kind of takes us through this journey of looking at what truth is, this chapter. And then, you know, when we let go of our own opinion and our worldview, what then? You know, we're present. And with presence, then the absolute truth is revealed, you know, and it doesn't care what we think, what we believe, but it's a pure unconditional love that nurtures and holds us and allows everyone to have what they want. We haven't got to argue, you know, and push our point of view. There's this you know, huge loving universal force for good that wants to help every single one of us fulfill our desires. You know, everything is set up to help us do that.
Gosh, there's so many amazing things in that. I don't know where to start. So, so what you were saying is when you meet people, you see them as incomplete, which,
no. It's the
no?
understanding that you have of the world is incomplete.
Okay.
So
Which
we have an understanding, don't we? What we perceive something to be true.
So so
and if you assume that what you can see isn't the whole picture, like there's maybe some missing information that you're not aware of just yet, you know, like that we often see with hindsight.
Yeah,
but you can actually do that in the moment. You can just go, right, yeah, I don't know everything. Just be open so that you can actually, you know, hear the other person without trying to oppose them. And then more information comes to light, you know, the more we pay attention and the more we are open to any missing jigsaw puzzle pieces.
Yeah, because quite often when you meet people, they're very much a reflection of yourself. You know, there's so much of you that you see in them, and sometimes that's what causes the resistance, especially when they're hitting those buttons. You know, it's like, deep down, you know, it's your stuff. You know, you're being triggered by some thought or some belief system or something that someone said to you a long time ago. It's just bringing it all up to surface, and especially when you're on a path of truth, oneness, it'll come up in waterfalls and rivers all at once. And then sometimes it doesn't, but there's always, I find, after having a connection just like that you have learned so much about yourself. You know, if you really sit with it, you're like, yeah, maybe it was that, okay. But it allows you to just be aware of that is surfacing, and then allows you to have that choice to either hold on to it or to let it go with love, of course. Yeah.
I mean, none of us have ever done anything wrong.
No.
And that's actually, I think it's the third chapter, the idea that there's something wrong. Because, you know, all these chapters work together for us to gain a greater understanding so that we can actually apply them. You know, because we've never done anything wrong, yet things feel wrong because we believe that they're wrong. So once we let go of the idea of there being anything wrong, it kind of allows us to see things in their purity. You know, so if there's something like, for example, war happening in the world today, you know, and there are, you know, different examples in our everyday life. We have battles with the people around us, or we have, for me, you know, I have a physical health condition that's always, you know, can present limitations for me in any given moment. So if I was perceiving I used to perceive my body as broken and that there was something wrong with the experience I was having. Since I've been able to surrender that concept, and it's just a concept about what is happening, the idea of wrongness is a concept. When I can let that concept of wrongness go, it stopped feeling wrong. And then that empowered me. So, and it also allowed me to access creativity, you know, so that I could come up with creative solutions to, you know, whatever needed addressing in any given moment. So, for example, at one point I couldn't lift anything. I couldn't lift a kettle to make a cup of tea. Couldn't lift it. I hadn't got the core strength to be able to do that. So after I got over myself and actually allowed the frustration I surrendered the frustration away. In that moment, it occurred to me that I could put my hand on the worktop, push down. Now I activated my upper body strength, and I could lift the kettle, put it on, and make myself a cup of tea. So now I was using my upper arm strength rather than my core strength. So it enabled me to do it. And that was one creative solution that, revolutionized my life at the time, to be able to put a pan of boiling water on to make dinner, or to have a cup of tea without having to ask somebody else to do it. There was a freedom in that. And, the satisfaction with coming up with that solution by myself, which there was only room for that to come through when I let go of the anger and frustration and could just be in this moment. And then everything is lined up to help us. But we've got to let go enough to allow the creativity to flow through, for us to be able to recognize what is possible.
And in your experience, your own personal experience, have you found that every time you have let go, every time you have surrendered, it's taking you on a deeper healing for yourself? Have you managed to, discover even more about who you are?
Absolutely. And writing this book, it's like when I started out on it, I would have said I was fairly surrendered. But in writing the book, it highlighted every single area of my life where I, in fact, wasn't surrendered at all. And so in a way, the book was written through me rather than me writing the book. So it's almost just like I was having a lesson in surrender as I was writing the book. And I started, implementing it, all of the stuff in there. I started implementing it and practicing it in my daily life. And it's made a massive difference. And the depth of experience of pure joy, but a very grounded joy, in each and every moment. And then it's like, it enables me to see all the possibilities, all the opportunities, all the solutions that I didn't have access to before I learned to surrender, much more fully in each and every moment.
I've heard from so many authors that when they have their writing process, it's one chapter builds on top of the other. Did you find that with your experience? Did it all kind of connect through? Like you went through, for example, chapter 1, did a bit of healing from that, and then you delved deeper into another chapter, and then went deeper into another healing, and then so on and so on, so on. So was that a process for you as you wrote this book?
Yeah, well, I didn't. It's funny. I didn't even really choose what order the chapters were in, but as I read it through, various different times through the proofreading and editing process, I was just like, this is like the perfect order. Like one builds on the rest, and yeah, it wasn't my plan. It was a divine plan, I guess. I don't know, but it just all fell into place. And I was actually quite shocked again and again and again. I'm like, oh my, when I sort of looked at it and like, does this need to change? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's actually, it just feels right as it is. And it didn't need any meddling now. If I'd allowed my ego to come in too much in this process, it would probably have, put the chapters in different order. It would have probably dissected it an awful lot more. Whereas I didn't want to lose that, that pure expression that just came through. So yeah, other than kind of making it so it was it read grammatically well, so it was easier for people to understand. Other than that, it was just all there, and it was almost like, thank you. It was a gift to me that I got to explore and play with, and then share with everyone else now.
And how long did it take you to write this book?
Trying to think when I actually started. Less than a year. 7 or 8 months probably, and I'm not sure, it might have been more like 5 or 6 months of actual writing, and then it takes an awful long time to go through the proofreading and editing stages and formatting and everything to get it published.
Magical. Absolutely magical. I love hearing how people write. It's so inspiring and so motivating as well. Who is your target audience for this book? Do you have one, or is it everyone?
We were talking about this beforehand, and it's just like everyone really, because who wouldn't want to surrender? when you understand and get to taste surrender and have the experience of what it can be, then it's for everyone. Whether everyone will it will appeal to everyone, whether everyone will actually want to go for it is another matter. I think for me it will be the people who have got a little bit fed up with the status quo and want to make a change and are actually willing to implement a change. I think will probably be the people who are drawn to this book the most.
Yeah. Well, before we close, is there anything you want to add to this interview, or shall I carry on with a couple more questions?
If you've got any more questions you'd like to ask, then yes, please do.
Let me think. Oh, some tips. Could you let us have one tip that we can kind of practice with to get a little taste of surrender, especially for those that don't have a practice, something simple?
Yeah, for me it's landing in this moment, and so we're just using your five senses to take in this moment. So you let go. It's like pretending nothing else exists outside of the room that you're in. Maybe you can see out of a window, and then that's part of the world. So just listening to what you can hear, seeing what you see, and just letting yourself explore it as an experience for a moment. Just letting everything be quiet, so you can actually pay attention without the mind getting so involved. And I think the sense that helps me the most, and a lot of people actually, to engage presence is to listen. And the sounds that you can hear, it's then what else can I hear? What else? So you're in this alert listening mode of operation, I suppose, and that allows most people. I don't think I've come across anybody yet that hasn't calmed them down and allowed them to be more present and open. And then that's the surrendered state. That's it. You're accessing it right there. There is nothing you have to do except enjoy
it. What I think would you be open to guiding us to do that?
Yeah, sure.
So that we can really feel that, have a taste of it. Is that all right with you?
Drink I think the water first, then.
Okay.
Yeah, we can start with our eyes open, actually, and just notice what you can hear right now. Any sounds, like for me, I can hear the fan on my computer, ticking clock. Just allowing your awareness to expand and widen and see what you can hear. See what you notice. And then just be gently attentive to it. Open to the experience expanding and deepening. And then you can even just take it that one step further and close your eyes. Now notice what you're aware of. And there's always going to be things you can notice, things you can hear. There might even be a sense of seeing, whether it's a blankness, a darkness, or colors, or shapes. You might be aware of body sensations. And you just simply observe them without any need to do anything with them, letting go of all control just for this moment. You only explore this moment when you let everything be exactly as it is and let everything in right now. then you can pay full attention without any effort and just simply witness it. And then notice the space. Still silent backdrop to any of the activity, any of the thoughts or body sensations. They all exist within this field of awareness. So just notice the very quiet part in your experience. And just allow it to open up and reveal itself to you more and more fully as you pay attention, gently, effortlessly, easily. And that's all it takes to surrender. And the more we do it, the more readily we'll stay there and sustain the experience. So you can just gently open your eyes. And just notice what you're aware of again with your eyes open. And for me, in my experience, it's just everything became more full and gentle. Like there's no edges to the experience. I don't know what your experience was like, Rajni. But that for me is surrender.
That was just blissful. I mean, definitely feeling peaceful, a lot more grounded here. Yeah, and it was so simple what you were saying as well. You know, just it's nothing woo-woo, is it? It's just very simple, very easy. And what that took a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And it takes no time. I think because we're so used to paying attention to the bells and whistles of life, the content, and we're like locked onto that. But it is a very quick, just a simple shift of the attention to take in the context as well. And initially it helps to be guided. Also helps to have a technique that automatically brings your awareness there, which is why I continue to use the ascension techniques, because that, regardless of the subjective experience, it continues to cultivate the capacity to be alert and staying consciously aware of that still silence, pure awareness that we are, and it's not anything we're adding to ourselves or taking away. It's just a recognition of who we are. And that's why it's such a restful experience, because there's no doing in there. We're just resting and being.
Oh, thank you, Meera.
You're very welcome. And thank you too for interviewing me. It was a wonderful hour we just had.
Could have gone on for a lot longer. I know we could have. Where can we buy this book?
So at the moment it's just available on Amazon in Kindle format and paperback format. I had plans to get it into Spanish, and there might be an audiobook at some point, but at the moment it's just the Kindle and paperback versions, and the same with my first book too. So which by the way took me 4 years to write, as opposed to probably 4 or 5 months. So and the only difference was and I don't know if it's because of the title of the book, that I was much more surrendered to the experience, whereas with the first book there was a lot more second guessing myself and procrastination, because I didn't feel like I was good enough, and that insidious belief that we're not good enough. If you actually just go and just do it, then it falls away in everything
I could tell when I read your chapters, I could tell. I haven't read the whole book, but I will, you know, because it's so clear. What I've read so far was so clear, and so, you know, you had some nuggets in there, some really eye-opening, like thought-provoking nuggets of wisdom in there. So I can't wait to read your book completely. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think you had 2 chapters of 30, so
I
yeah,
did.
28 to go.
So do you have any other books in the planning?
I do, yes.
Mm.
The one that's actually already in the works is a journal and workbook for my first book to get to accompany that. And I've also got some audios with the meditations that are in the back of that book that are in the process of being produced. So they'll be available in hopefully months, in a few months' time. And then the project that was going to be in place of this one that I'm doing now is a book about, and it's called Peace for Parents Equals Peace for Children. Because so often we just want the best for our children, but we forget about ourselves. And it's very much a synergistic relationship. And so when we help ourselves out and we look after our own needs, we look after our children's, you know, and you'll probably know that as a mum yourself.
Yeah.
And how much easier it is when we look after ourselves as well. And it's so easy to forget about yourself as a mum, you see, and we can, you know, as our children grow up, mine are 22 and 19 now, so like as they got older, it you know, and they took on their own personalities, and it just seemed to cause an awful lot of friction in the relationships. And so yeah, I addressed that because I couldn't have continued the way it was. And so yeah, my experiences from all of that and what I see in the world today, it's, you know, it's almost about every relationship we have with another person and how we can make it easy, we make it kind. We can always be kind and loving, and but only if we look after ourselves first is of the utmost importance. So yeah.
Oh, you're touching on amazing subjects, and that I will definitely look forward to as well. And yeah, thank you. Thanks, Meera. Thanks for your energy, your honesty, your presence, your tips. And honestly, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you this evening. I'll see you soon anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Rajni. Yeah, well, I'll see you soon when we're going to teach together. But yeah, for now, just thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a wonderful hour just chatting and yeah, talking about what makes me most passionate.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining in, and we'll see you soon. Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.